Welcome back to Seriously Funny. I'm your host, Mashnur Kabir, and I draw rabbits. This week on our 2-yearth episode, there's 52 weeks per year. I haven't missed a week. 52 times 2 is 104. This is episode 104. Although I've technically made 106 episodes, since there's 2 episodes sitting in the vault. For you, this is better than the 100th episode, which I completely forgot I was recording 4 weeks ago. I'm not going to lie. But hey, 2 years, we have 3,000, a little over 3,000 plays, which is about 1.5 thousand per year, or about 28 listens per week. And that's definitely not happening. Not getting 28 listens per week. Some episodes are listened to a lot, while others are listened to not at all. And so my most listened to episode is undoubtedly the book review for The Fifth Vital. And I still keep forgetting to do more book reviews, but don't worry, we have one in the pipeline coming up soon for The Happiness Advantage. That one takes a little bit. I make notes in all the books, so it's probably a lot easier than for some people. But for me, I still have to go through, find some quotes I really like, really find, remember again, because a lot of these books, it's been so long since I've read because, college really stops me from reading for fun and such. So, yeah, the lighting, my face is probably lit a bit better than normal. That's kind of cool, but if I look up a bit too much, there goes my eye. But where are we? I have a topic for next week, so the book review will probably be out in probably 3 to 4 weeks. Honestly, I have a few topics that I want to go over. But this week I talk about a random thought that came into my mind. And 2 years, not ago, just 2 years. Go ahead and make that number bigger, hit the buttons, and as for what we're going to do going forward for this 104, something has to change, right? Just for funsies. I'm removing the episode numbers from the title of the podcast. Okay, it's wasting space. All right, I put the episode number in the data of the episode. So if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, it should say season 1, episode 104, somewhere on there. So you don't need it in the title. Also, I keep track of them myself. Most of my scripts have EP whatever written in front of it, and I know where I am. So. I'm getting it out of the title. None of that. This is more prevalent for audio listeners. If you're aware of my YouTube and the video version of the podcast, I already started really kind of phasing out the episode whatever number in the YouTube title because I wanted better titles, and I felt like having an episode number just maybe people saw it and they're like, oh, I don't want to just jump in on episode 100 and whatever. So remove that a while ago. And last week I said I needed to put something there. Now there's $2,000 worth, probably a bit more, of $2,000 worth of just tech right there. I'm going to build a PC tomorrow, hopefully. So I guess you won't see it. It'll be this way, so it won't be visible to you, but there's an EVJ 3080, there's an Intel i5 12600K or 12600K if I'm not wrong, and there's some power supplies and stuff going on over there. But yeah, I'll show you, if you're a video listener, I'll show the system briefly next week, I guess, or next episode, because this comes out next week for me. But anyways, yeah. That's going to be fun. Buddy's going to help me, and I'm super excited to build with him. He's helped me pick out all the parts, and he's been messaging me oh, when is everything coming, over and over, and he's like, bro, I'm so excited. He's a veteran builder. He's done this multiple times. He's done hardline tubing, if you know what that is, water cooling and hard tubing. He's done a lot of done a lot of stuff. He knows what he's doing when he's building the PC. I've just watched a lot of YouTube videos, and I've wanted to build one for a while, and he pushed me to finally make the first purchase, in which case, I'm going to go make the rest of the purchases. That's why $2K. I'm going to keep this thing for a long time. It's not like my MacBook where, I want to keep that upgraded and keep getting the newest, A, just because I'm an Apple shill, and B, because I'm a Final Cut editor. I use Apple Pages for my writing, in Notion too. Mostly Notion. I use Apple Pages for writing keynotes or pitch presentation for making presentation, and pitch is optimized for Mac, and Final Cut, everything. I'm a Mac user, to be honest. I do everything on Mac, so Mac is a bit more what I'm focused on when in terms of getting work done. I just want a nice, good Windows system that I can keep for a long time, that I don't have to upgrade much. If I upgrade anything, it'll be like fans, the case, mostly aesthetic things to like change the look, keep it fresh every now and then maybe, but like 3080, I'm good for a long time. Those 40 cards are going to consume way too much energy. And then the Intel chip, it's an i5. I very much doubt that I'm ever going to need anything more than that, to be honest with. Again, I'm just going to play video games. It has 10 cores. Like, it'll probably do what I need to do. And the video games I play are very rarely intensive, that intensive. Cyberpunk is probably the most intensive game I would play, but Apex Legends, that's going to be more GPU. Genshin Impact, it's 60 frames locked. Like, I'm going to hit 60 frames on Genshin. I think I'll be okay. You would get a 3050 and hit 60 on Genshin. It's a mobile game, for God's sake. But yeah, I'm super happy with the pieces, and hopefully everything works and hopefully everything fires up. I do have class for the first time for summer, my first summer semester, and my summer semester 1 class, my marketing class, at 5. So hopefully we get it done before that. If not, it's the first class. It's just going to be intro stuff. I'll just put headphones on or something while I continue building. Who cares? Anyways, let's get on to the actual episode. Maybe I'll talk some more about it if I have time later or in the next one after everything's built. I think that we all have a way of interacting with the world, a different way of interfacing with it, if you will, which is all a fancy way of saying that we all have a different way that we leave our mark on the world, per se. Usually I have separate points, but today I'm going to go a bit more advanced, a bit more advanced. I can't come up with another word. Advanced. And I'm going to mix the first and second point. I'm just going to make it this homogeneous mixture, just slash them together, blend them, mix them like a professional rather than just point by point, you know, because I'm cool like that. Something that I've heard before is that everyone has an innate desire to be remembered, to leave a mark on the world, to leave a legacy. For some people, it's as simple as having kids, and for others, they start multi-billion-dollar businesses. I know people who want to do both. I know someone who'd love to be a multi-billion-dollar business guy, and I know someone who just, you know, they want to get to a place in life where they can just have a family and live their lives. And now the question then is whether or not this is a universal desire, and whether or not it's, you know, everyone legitimately does have this innate drive to want to be remembered or to leave a legacy. And my gut reaction is no. I don't think that everyone has some need to leave something behind, to leave a trace of them, to yell to the people of the future, or maybe yell to the void, I was here. I think that most people definitely think it's cool or think it wouldn't be bad. Like, I don't think anyone would be like, I don't want to, you know, mark for me. It's just too hard. But, you know, if it happened, I think most people are like, yeah, that's awesome. But I don't think that I don't think there's many people that want to exist and then disappear, leaving nothing behind. Is there something on my mic? Goodness. Leaving nothing behind. The exception being maybe depressed people, of course, but I think that's a result of cognitive distortions more than a genuine contempt of being remembered. You know, you're depressed, your brain isn't exactly going to think in a perfectly rational and clear way all the time. Personally, I don't really have a massive drive to be remembered myself. I think that if someone told me, they came up to me and they're like, after you die, every bit of content you ever made, gone, poof, disappeared, I'd probably be pretty okay with that. I mean, like, I'd shrug my shoulders, you know. If I'm dead, it's not really my problem who does or doesn't see my content. While I'm alive, big problem of mine, okay? Share it. All your friends. Right now. Stop, hit pause. Don't hit pause. It's an effing podcast. You don't have to hit pause. Hit the share button, all right? Do it. Now, you know, if I'm dead, doesn't really matter who sees it, who it's impacting. That's not much an issue. I mean, I won't be dealing with many direct consequences after I'm dead with, who does or doesn't see my content, how it impacts them. I mean, I guess that depends on how religious you are, though. Then we go back to interfacing with the world. This is our way of leaving that mark on the world. Whether you want to or don't want to be remembered, we all have some way that we go about leaving some sort of mark on the world, drawing on the world at some point, or the universe, whatever. If it's not driven by wanting to be remembered, which actually connects a bit to our episode from last week on liminal spaces, we talked about this is gonna take a few attempts. Ready? Athazagoraphobia. Athazagoraphobia. The fear of being forgotten. That was like 2 attempts. That was incredible. The fear of being forgotten. And one of the parts of liminal spaces that cause the sense of discomfort is that emptiness in the picture, the fact that there's no one in them, the area being seemingly forgotten, lost in time, stuck in between this dimension and another one. Our desire to communicate on a sort of or our desire to continue on creates a sort of discomfort when we see the pictures. Though that was last episode, whether it be driven by the fear of being forgotten or driven by sheer boredom, we all want to, if not leave a mark on the world, at the very least draw on the walls. Unless, of course, you're enlightened, then, you don't have desires at all. But I still want to work at Apple, so here we are. But yeah, usually if it's not for the sake of being remembered or having a legacy or whatever, it's just because you're bored. Like, what else would you do? Like, if you're not going to leave a mark, you just going to sit there? Like, you got to do something. With this desire to mark on the world, we can say that different people have different ways of interacting with the world, different ways they draw on the walls, different markers they use. My marker, my way of interacting with the world is fundamentally, it's not speaking, not even creating content per se. It's writing. Writing is the basis for all of the other ways that I put things in the universe, whether it be personally, like one of the ways that I grew so much, and I observed myself so much, and I handled myself so much. And when I was, transitioning into becoming, into evolving myself, when I was younger a few years ago, then at that point, one of the ways that I went about like analyzing myself and synthesizing everything I was doing and what I wanted and what I didn't want, like I wrote. I still have the notebook from when I was in 9th grade, was when I started writing it, to when I got to about 11th, like maybe a little bit into 12th grade, my senior year of high school. It's in my closet. It's a blue notebook. Now I have a black one, and now I write in that one whenever. Oh, honestly, I only write in that when it like gets real super. Like when the mind, like when I legitimately, like, my brain is just not able to sort things out. Generally, at this point, I don't need it, but every now and then, if anything happens where I'm just like I gotta, like, writing is my way of really, like, that's the therapy that I'll use, writing. That's the best way for me to understand and get everything out of my head and put it in a cohesive manner, because when I write, even just the act of writing, then my mind will automatically begin to like run it through an untangler machine, and it'll get untangled and then put it on the paper, and then I can look over it if I need to. But generally, just the act of writing, not even rereading it, just writing in itself will help me understand things and help me get things through. But like, writing is like I said, the basis for the way that I interact with the universe in general. From this podcast to my YouTube videos, all the content I make, even my research for like sleep, and I'm doing loneliness and solitude right now, or whatever it may be. I don't just read a bunch of papers and then talk to you about them. I write everything down in a way that's my own and I hope easily readable, right? If you've ever actually clicked the source material for the research episodes, whether it be the mRNA vaccine stuff, the psychopathology stuff like mental disorders, the sleep stuff, or in a few days here, the solitude and loneliness stuff. If you've ever hit that, like if you've ever hit the source and went to the Notion page, It's all pretty, I think, in my opinion, easily readable, easy to go through, easy to digest, find your way around. It doesn't need to be read sequentially, like if you want to just hop around, because I understand this is like a wiki sort of page. I don't want to make it so like it's a book where you have to read every section down, like up to down. It's like, oh, I'm going to go to the sleep deprivation page and I just want to know how to sleep better. Like, you don't need to read any other part to read that section. Or I'm going to go to the personality disorder page and look into cluster C personality disorders. What's it called? Not attractiveness, not attention, attachment. Like, I want to look at the attachment disorders. Like, you don't need to read the cluster A and cluster B ones. You don't need to read all of the mood disorders. Like, if they're linked, like correlated in any way, like it's written there, like it's connected. I'll literally like have a backlink to a different page if it's necessary. Like it's all self-contained and all hopefully compact enough. Compactness definitely isn't ever my forte. I mean, I'm already 16 minutes in and I'm not even done with the first effing point here. But, all of these things, I write them down in a way that's easily reasonable. I write everything. I write. I've been writing for years now as well, whether it be long text messages that I've just been sending since I was running since I was leading an Agario clan, or my blog, which I started when I was when I more or less like a few months into high school, or even now this podcast and my YouTube channel. I script out both of these things fully. For the podcast, I go off script a lot. Even right now, this is off script, but the YouTube videos, honestly, unless I'm forgetting what the script says verbatim, like the YouTube videos are like full scripted, basically. I memorize it. Every now and then I'll cheat and read off the script, because sometimes it's just a lot of bullet points. And I think there's also a rhetorical advantage of me like reading off this list of bullet points, because like the sensation that I want to give off sometimes, like when I'm like, oh, these are the effects of sleep deprivation, like I want to make it so I have to read this iPad because there's so much to remember that I can't remember it all. Like, that's the sort of like psychological sort of like thing that I'm trying to convey when I do that sometimes. So sometimes it's on purpose. It does make my life easier for sure, but sometimes there's a rhetorical component to it as well. I know, 5D chess, crazy. But, I've just been writing for a long time. I write. It's how I interface with the world. But this is only my way, my personal way of interacting with the world. Other people have a similar way of doing it, maybe, but not everyone. Other people can be writers, but not everyone's a writer. You might be listening to this like, I don't write anything down ever. Some people build buildings. Some people build circuits, which, looking at my major should probably be my way of interacting with the world. But here I am. Shout out marketing. Other people do it by helping people, being doctors. Some people do what I think is one of the greatest things someone can do, research. By learning new information and giving it to the world, we progress humanity, right? Now, research has a lot of bias and a lot of bad things going on in there, but looking past that, research in itself is a pretty good thing to do, in my opinion. If not research, some people are physicists. Their way of interacting with the world, maybe studying the universe and understanding it. Some people create things. Maybe these are the business people, the entrepreneurs that start, big old fat companies. There's an innumerable amount of ways to interact with the world. Everyone has a different one. Yours may be something I said, and it may be something else. I don't think that any of them are better than any others inherently by any means necessary, right? Except research, of course. There's no better way to be a pretentious, condescending jerk than to be a researcher. I guess you could also be a lawyer too, though, so I don't know. I think that if your goal is to have your name remembered or your legacy remembered, I think then you can say some methods are better than others if you have then you have a reference point to compare things to. But some methods are going to be better if you want your name remembered than others will be. Although these days I'm not sure who will and won't be remembered. I don't know what they'll be teaching in history classes in a few years, but I doubt that in 200 years Elon Musk, unless he cracks the code to living forever, won't be remembered. There's also a chance that humanity doesn't exist in 200 years. I mean, have you seen the gas prices? So that might also be the reason that no one's able to be remembered, because everyone's gone. might happen. That's kind of interesting to think about, though. There's a lot of moments in history that are, well, history, but I don't think that, I don't think anyone will ever forget like World War II. And as good or bad as it is, like the name Hitler probably won't ever be forgotten, along with the actions that went along with that name. Then there's America. George Washington will probably be around for a while, regardless of how good or bad of a human being he, actually was, at least by today's standards. Isaac Newton, Albert Einstein. There are some names that will like just be there. They are not going to be forgotten as long as we continue as a society and species, unless we send everyone back to the Stone Ages with a World War IV, as Albert Einstein said. But these days, very few researchers are as prolific in their discoveries as like say Isaac Newton and Albert Einstein. It's just harder to discover that much stuff since too much has been discovered already. Like for Newton, being as plugged into the universe as he was, it's like pretty easy to, this is calculus. This is gravity. This is motion. Like just knocking them off one by one, just over and over. Nowadays, in order to like discover one thing, you need to research for like 50 years and use a ton of technology, parse through a bunch of data, or write a big old fat algorithm to parse through the data. Like it's really, really hard to do that now. Right? Like just making one discovery just takes longer. And so it's harder to make as many as they did. It's just harder to discover that much stuff. And even when some of these people discover things, their names behind, the names behind these discoveries are not really remembered. Like there's a lot of technology. So the James Webb Telescope got launched a few, months ago now. Months? I think it is months ago now. And the thing is, first of all, other than James Webb, how many researchers and people that invented that do you know the names of, unless you're an enthusiast? And B, the amount of technology that was probably discovered and researched in order to make that thing is probably enormous. Like there's a lot of R&D that went into just that thing. And of course they used discoveries that were already made and known, and maybe they shaped them, in the way that they needed to. But a lot of discoveries were probably made just to get that telescope in the into space and to do what it does. The issue, it's not an issue per se, but the thing is, you probably don't know the names of a single one of the people that researched these discoveries. You might learn about the discoveries one day in a class here or a class there, and they're going to say, we had this super incredible discovery by X person, and they're just going to gloss over the person and keep talking about the discovery. The person's not going to, that's not the emphasis. There's just not much emphasis on the author compared to the title. Even when you look at a research, when you're reading these, the authors are 4-point font, under the effing 12, 30-point font title. Maybe it's not a very bad idea to let go of wanting to be remembered or wanting to be forgotten than, being remembered. Look, being remembered is really hard. I guess if you have enough money, you can just like my college does, you can just fund a building and have your name on it forever, right? I mean, a lot of the buildings at my college are named after people that gave money to the college. But I don't think that, most things are funny today, disgusting today, but ultimately it'll be forgotten tomorrow. A tweet Elon makes, it's great today, a lot of articles today, give it a week, we're on to the next thing, on to the next tweet. From Elon buying Twitter to your friend getting canceled because of their bad anime takes. Granted, if your friend thinks Jujutsu Kaisen is mid, then I'd cancel them too. These things everything gets forgotten these days. Everything moves so quickly, and it's very hard for anything to stick. And I think just being remembered is a really hard thing to do. Who remembers Jake Paul's name at this point, right? He did a bunch of crazy publicity things, and honestly, his publicity was good. As much as you want to not like the guy, I wouldn't say that I'm very fond of him, but in terms of PR and getting the name out there known, he did a good job in terms of just raw marketing. I gotta give him credit. I don't like the method, but I can't say that it doesn't work. Again, if I don't like it, I'm not going to use it. That's just being the person I am. If I don't like something, I'm generally not going to do it. But if I have time left, which I don't, but whatever. It's summer. What else do I have to do every day? I mean, my entire day is going to be dedicated to editing this anyways, so whatever. I'm just getting through today. Today is just, sometimes you have a day where you're like, I just need to go to sleep. Like, that's the whole goal today. Just exist for a while and go to sleep, because tomorrow is a better day, more things to do tomorrow. Yesterday I just had work, and days I have work, I'm like, I'll go home and I'll do something, like at least one thing. But then, like, man, even like 6 hours of physical labor really gets to you. Like, it's crazy. I never thought it would be much of an issue, and honestly, to be honest, my energy, like, I don't feel tired exactly. I just like very low on drive. I guess like there's this mental drain. It's not tired per se, but it's just I'm drained. And I'm like, I could probably do this thing, but I feel like to one extent, A, I just don't want to. And B, like I feel like I'm going to do the thing injustice. Like if I do research on a Saturday after work, I feel like the papers I read, I won't be giving them the attention they deserve. But anyways, if I have time, which I don't, but whatever, I want to talk about this. I recently finally watched a very popular anime movie. I Want to Eat Your Pancreas. Great name. It was absolutely incredible. It had an incredible twist, like really good. I'm always super, super like surprised and very pleased whenever like a plot twist is actually like surprising, because generally you can guess what's going to happen, and that, just because you can guess what is going to happen doesn't mean it'll be, bad. But it's like when I'm actually surprised, when the plot is legitimately twisted and I'm like, whoa, what? That was unexpected. When something like that happens, it was just like, it's very surprising, and I love when that happens. To avoid it, but generally just the movie was very thought provoking and honestly heart-wrenching at points. To avoid spoilers, the story is about a girl who has a pancreatic issue. Doesn't say what exactly, but just something wrong with her pancreas, and she doesn't want to tell anyone, her friends, etc., about it because it's terminal. This isn't a spoiler. This literally happens in like the first 5 minutes of the movie. She doesn't know when, but she knows at some point, she's gonna, die because of this illness. By accident, a quiet bookworm who was also at the hospital, just to get an appendicite, just to check out his appendix or something. He, on accident, finds a diary. He thought it was a book, and so he was like, oh, a book. I'm a book. I read books. I like books. What's this book called? And so he finds the book. It was a diary, and he found the title, and it was titled Living with Dying, and it was her diary. And since the title was because, she's alive, she's living at the moment, but she knows she's going to die, like for a fact. And so there's this strange sort of, like, I'm alive, kind of, like also dead at the same time. So the girl finds him reading this book, and she's like, oh, that's mine. Where he did read, he saw, like, he read it, and he saw the illness, like where he stumbled upon the page where she said, yep, I'm gonna die, and she like found him reading the book, and she said to him, yeah, I'm gonna die, like kind of just like pretty nonchalantly, and he responds like a dead fish. He's just like, oh, I see. And then he like just continued on with his day. His number got called at the hospital. He put the book down, and he's like, okay, that's yours. Have fun with that. And then he was just packing up his bag. He's like, okay, time to go on. And she's just like, ayo, what? Like, most people would be all sympathetic and stuff if they heard this. Most people would be like, oh my God, that's crazy. But this guy's just like, okay, sick. She finds him at school. They go to the same school. And she starts hanging out with this bookworm that didn't really have friends because he just stuck his head in books all day. And she starts hanging out with him. And, after that, well, watch the movie. It's available on Netflix if you have a VPN, because for some reason it's not available in America. And if you don't have Netflix or a VPN, it is on the internet. I'm not going to promote anything, but I'm just going to say it's on the internet. I highly recommend it. It was really good. I'm super glad I was able to watch it. Finally, made the time. Really, really, very good. Lived up to everything. But this idea of living with dying was really interesting. The female main character, FMC, was pretty upbeat. She was like really like happy-go-lucky girl, and she wasn't depressed at all. Like she was very like, gonna cross everything off the bucket list, like very excited sort of like attitude. I think that some people may have that reaction when like for terminal illnesses. Right? Some people are like super like, okay, that's just fine. Okay, fine. That just means that everything I wanted to do in life, I'm doing right now. I'm gonna live hedonistic for a bit. And some people like will be just super positive. Like they're like, okay, I'll accept that. Other people may be complete denial, right, in the opposite way. And some people might become depressed, which is probably the most like understanding reaction. Most people would be like, yeah, that makes sense, right? You figure out you're going to die. You're pretty sad about it. All reactions make sense. All of them, even that super optimistic, happy, positive ones. That one might not make complete sense at the beginning if you're a layman, but if you understand the psychology, or I guess the psychologies of reactions, there's, but the one that probably makes the least sense is that happy one, right? It's just the least intuitive. You're like, oh, if you find out you're going to die, why would you get so happy? But when you know for a fact that you're going to die, some people may hit a sort of pseudo enlightenment, to be honest. There's just like realizing, okay, well, nothing matters, literally. Like having a home won't matter in 5 years if I don't have 5 years left, And so understanding what is and isn't important, they gain a high level of insight and maturity, giving them a level of peace. Some people don't get this. Some people just completely ignore the fact that some people, they don't have terminal illnesses. They just have illnesses. That's next week's topic. Next week's topic. Teaser. This doesn't mean they're always completely okay with dying. Even the people that are super happy and, it's not that they're lying with their optimism. Sometimes they are. But a lot of times, they're not exactly like cool with dying. It's just, just because you accept something doesn't mean you're okay with it. I think there's a lot of like people, I guess now a lot of them are gone, but just like 10, 15 years ago, there's a lot of World War II survivors from the Holocaust and the containment camps. And, they probably weren't exactly happy with what happened or okay with what happened, but a lot of them came to accept the situation they were in and they went through. And that doesn't mean they're okay with it. They definitely probably would have preferred that it didn't happen. But, coming to terms with something, it's a healthy thing. It's something that you want to have. But, a lot of times, even when you're super happy-go-lucky, when you get this news, there's still this sense of like fear, like, man, I really don't want to die. Sometimes the upbeatness can come from, wanting to avoid that fear, right? It can be a defense mechanism for sure. It's a way to hide it. There's different reasons that someone may react anyway to anything. Again, if you study all the psychologies or just intuitive and human psychology, you can, put all the pieces together. And I think one of the lessons I learned was like, don't get confused when someone reacts some way. Like look into it a little bit, and you'll pretty quickly figure out why someone reacts a way to a thing. Sometimes the reason's really awesome. Sometimes the reason's less awesome. And, when I see these things, I'm able to, talk to people in a way that can resonate with them. And they can, if it does seem like they could be living in a better state of mind, then, if I can briefly assist them, I'll briefly assist them. But, the best way to find out why anyone reacts to something for the psychoanalysts out there, if you really want to ask me how to do it, here, ready? I'm going to tell you. Ready? Ask them. Yeah, crazy. I know. Don't just sit there and assume that you know why someone reacts some way. Even what I just said. When I said that I know, I can figure out why someone reacts a way to thing. Do you know how I know it? For 98% of the process, I think I have an idea. I have a hypothesis. Do you know how I confirm that? Do you know where the other 2% comes from? I look them in the face holes, the eyeballs, and I say, from talking to you, you said this, this, and this, and that tells me that it seems like this is why you are going about things in this manner. Am I right? And if they say no, then is there a chance it's denial? There's always a chance. But generally, if someone says no, like if you see them think about it for a second and really like take in what you said, and they're like, nah, I don't think so, then you're probably just wrong, okay? And like, come on. I kind of lost my original point there, but I think I've more than hit time. I'm 15 minutes over, so we'll move on. Other than I Want to Eat Your Pancreas, I finished watching Love of Kill. It was okay. I wouldn't recommend it explicitly, to be honest, but if you're into the stereotypical overpowered character romance, but this time there's some assassin stuff, I would tell you to go watch Spy X Family, which is going to be 50 times better. I haven't watched the anime yet, but I read the manga, can confirm it is very good. I've also read a good amount of the Tokyo Ghoul manga. I'm on chapter 90 now. It's a bit different in a number of places, especially from chapters like 80 to 90. It's completely different. There's like a full arc that just was not touched at all, and there's like a bunch of details that are different here on in the manga. So it's a bit different in a number of places, especially there. But I'm not sure which one is better. I think that they're different. And I think that, honestly, I think they're both good in their own ways, like separately. You know, if we compare them, I'm bad at that, so I don't know. But I think the anime as an anime was pretty solid, and I think the manga as a manga is really solid. And so, you know, they're different. I've also caught up to Boruto. Actually, I think an episode came out today, and I caught up yesterday, so I'll probably watch that at some point. But I'm probably going to be reading Oyasumi Punpun or start that on Monday or Tuesday. And we'll get back to you whenever that starts. Summer classes will be starting for me on Monday, which was last week for you. I mean, this episode comes out video on Monday, so, you know, I have class today at some point, and then I have classes on Wednesdays, but 3-hour classes, 5 to 8, goodness, like 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. It's wild. But aside from that, I only have one class for summer semester 1. I have 2 classes for summer semester 2, so, you know, ramps up a bit. But so right now, though, we're good. We're safe. We're okay. Let's hope, yeah. Okay. Yeah, that is all, though, for this episode of Seriously Funny. Thank you so much for watching or listening, or both. That's the optimal decision. I will talk at you next week. Much love. Keep drawing on the walls of the world however you want to, unless it's really mean. Don't draw mean things on the walls. That's bad. But draw on the world in whatever way that you interface with it. I'm going to keep writing, and I hope that you keep listening to that. I will talk at you next week. Peace.